Hello, this is Prue again, and what happened is I just completed the using LTHS to connect with any being of consciousness workshop, and felt an immediate inspiration to put this together. Because what's happening is, what's unfolding is, I am deciding to embrace my chef past and use it as a fun way to package up learning of Layered Ternary Harmony Story things. So basically what's coming up is a launch of a new universal stories kind of concept for me, where I will produce universal recipes for anyone interested that can be used to create blissful daily life experiences. So it's not just a recipe for the meal, but a recipe for the day and for the life and for anything you'd like to use. It's universal. And it's based on the Layered Ternary Harmony Story discoveries that I had recently published. So that being said, for the full effect of this story, I strongly recommend going through the Intro to Layered Ternary Harmony Story and applying Layered Ternary Harmony Story into your daily life, as well as using Layered Ternary Harmony Story to connect to any being of consciousness, because all of this comes into play as we tell this story. So by having had that background, I believe you're going to receive a new, richer, real-life experience as I tell this story. Let me know if you do, actually. Well, as we begin, first of all, the story of universal recipes is a Layered Ternary Harmony story, which itself is a Tuco story, which was my dream restaurant that I created and operated for a little over 10 years before it collapsed, which was all part of my story, the Prue story, which itself is part of the story of the Caribbean, Puerto Rico in specific, which itself is part of the Christopher Columbus discovery story. So inside of my genetics is that story. As I tell you this story, let's keep that in mind. Both sides, by the way, Columbus and the Taínos, who were innocent. This is inside of the genes of all of us from the Caribbean, pretty much. And all the stories that came after, the pirates, the slave masters, the slave traders, and everything in between. Yes. Okay. Back to the Layered Ternary Harmony Story. I didn't set out to do this discovery. That was not, it was just not even on the radar. I was really just trying to go through a process of understanding why everything around me just didn't succeed, and I was miserable, and I chose to use computer science programming, which that's what I studied years ago, because all of this was because I had a technical career, in the technology world that I was unhappy with, and I had left it for this dream restaurant where I poured it all in there. But anyways, as I was trying to figure out what was wrong with myself, I chose to use computer programming because I enjoyed it in college. As the tool I would use to introspect. Instead of just writing random things, I would try to just program what I was seeing. And that particular coincidence is a miracle of Paradise Story. Many miracles. This story is a collection, a pearl necklace of miracles, this being one of them. So the Tuco story, which was a story that kind of played out 2004 to 2015-ish. It was a dream come true. It was a special little place for anyone that has been there. That was me leaving a career of disappointments in technology and pouring everything I had into this. And this thing was ravaged through the years by separation story, pirates and demons, which, if you've gone through the prior workshops, you understand the reality of that. And it was, all of them were inside of me. They were me, but I hadn't yet realized it. And so to pursue that, to try to find happiness, I left that technology world, poured it all into this restaurant, where those same demons and pirates followed me and did the same thing again to my restaurant, which collapsed in 2015. And not too many years thereafter, Layered Ternary Harmony Story was birthed out of all of that. Much like a caterpillar butterfly story, a real metamorphosis. So continuing on with this recipe, this Tuco story, well, important in that whole thing was right around 2014. That it was a perfect storm developing of many years of underperforming and getting more and more in debt, more and more behind, to where it was a juggling act between all the different past dues to try to figure out which one was more critical, but keeping the business open. It was a miserable situation. So this was going on at a time when all of a sudden, one day, I woke up feeling different, clear-minded, no more haziness, no more self-doubt, a sudden real strong confidence in my new strong intuition. I noticed my speech kind of patterns changed. I developed a more eloquent speech, almost like I was a different person. And right around that same time, I developed an intense interest in Leonardo da Vinci. Out of nowhere. I was never a fan. I was never into these sorts of things. I was just doing my own thing. So, this strong interest in Da Vinci, I just had a strong intuition, sense this is real. He was coming into my life, and just roll with it. So I connected. I YouTubed him, I Googled him, I got to know him, all of that. And with that knowledge, I empathetically dialed into his being and could feel and understand and kind of react like I kind of felt he would. And we connected at a very profound, deep level. I invited him into my heart. I considered him, I tattooed him on my forearm, the inside of my right forearm, so I would see him all the time throughout the day. And by the way, all of this is something consistent with all of the heroes that I have kind of since invited. As I learned about Leo, I connected deeply to his universal curiosity, to the fact that he kind of was born in a tough situation, didn't really get a fair shake, had a lot to prove because he believed in himself. I relate to those things profoundly. And those are consistent themes in many, if not most, of the heroes that have come into my life on their own, out of nowhere, really. I had no interest at all in these things until after my awakening, which, by the way, a separation story would define as a psychotic break. All right, continuing on with the recipes, with this recipe. Just presenting some of the heroes, the closest ones that I consider the gang. These folks are tattooed on my arms. Johann Sebastian Bach, specifically for his cello suites, which to me intuitively feel like direct musical connections to the Paradise story that I'm describing. Van Gogh, because of his story, his innocence, being not born into a great situation, and his absolute love of nature, art, color, and kindness. Picasso he came to me again out of nowhere. I can't even say I'm necessarily a fan of all of his work. I'm a fan of some of his work, yes, but his earlier work in particular it's less cubistic and abstract stuff. But his passion as an artist explorer in the imaginary world inspire me greatly and identify with it greatly. And so he's on my arm as well, my right arm. Einstein and Tesla, kind, wise, universal explorers, each in their own areas. Disney and Jobs. You know, I'm not saying these folks were saints, okay? I'm not saying I agree with everything in their lives. I'm saying these are heroes to me in these specific areas, including Disney and Jobs as storytellers and as technology business builders. Chief Seattle as a peaceful chief who treated the U.S. invaders with kindness, which I consider an observable highest intelligence being. The same with my chief, who I discovered after I discovered Chief Seattle, a peaceful Caribbean chief who I share genetic ancestry with and who greeted Columbus and crew with kindness. Again, observable highest intelligence. And more recently, I've added new heroes, von Humboldt, Planck, Faraday, Turing, and others come. But again, Spinoza, again, these are folks, Galileo, these are folks that suffered for their ideas often. They were ridiculed by their peers, maybe called crazy. I relate very much. I hope you're enjoying this story. It's the first telling of it in this way. I think I might have hit this twice. If it does, I'll re-update it, but I'll carry on. So continuing with the story. So again, my intuition told me, my strong intuition told me that all this was happening was healthy, and it was a healing, awakening, a miracle. My progress and my production of my work is its testament, is its proof that indeed this was healthy. The fogginess was gone, the newfound interest, but Separation Story labels that as a psychotic break. So Separation Story is where current psychology and medicine and technology and science and education and governance and finance is right now. The current world that is currently collapsed, suffering a pandemic. So sensing all of this perfect storm, I was getting real behind on my bills. I'm going through this awakening. I sense a strong sense that the end was near financially for this restaurant. So I needed to do a new last-ditch effort of getting more customers in, which I chose to use this newfound interest in all of these heroes and art as a way to make it more eclectic, more interesting, a new experience, capturing a younger crowd that would expand my customer base and avoid the impending doom. Well, it did the opposite. I did get some new faces, some younger faces, some artist faces, beautiful people. But I lost a lot of my conservative older crowd, and it just accelerated, precipitated the collapse, which did happen. But by this time, I was pretty far along in my journey connecting to this new world. So its collapse, actually, what it did is it set me free. Set my schedule free to go full-time on this. Full-time. My iPhone, my sketch pad, my color markers, a Wi-Fi connection at Starbucks. A little sativa. So make sure I had my iPod or my iPhone with my earbuds on, with my music, which led to this discovery in 2019 of Layered Ternary Harmony Story, which I consider miracles. The collapse, a miracle. The not being able to land back on my feet, freeing up my time, which that was not my intention. My intention was to get back on my feet. That was a miracle leading to this discovery, which itself is a miracle of miracles. We're getting close to and that miracle being, again, discovering a hidden layers over our physical universe, a CPU and a software layer, presenting an entirely new view of ourselves and our universe as eternal beings of consciousness within a universal computer, and packaging all that up into a simple formula and architecture of both programming code and values that can be used by engineers to create, compare, measure, track universal things from atoms to civilizations. And again, introducing the concept of an imaginary world, every bit as real as our physical world. In fact, it's the imaginary world that births the physical world. So you could say it's even more real, and allowing ourselves to reprogram our understanding of things that currently tune out that imaginary world, making it less important, less real, and correcting that, allowing that to have every bit as much weight as our physical senses. Putting that into a nice, beautiful, flowing, machine executable architecture, so that we can use this as our mental reasoning to allow us to realistically connect to newfound imaginary world senses within us that are naturally there, that have been programmed hiding. So they have been deprogrammed by us, but we will now be able to reconnect with them. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this little telling of this story. It's the start of a new phase of the telling of my story, which is going to be packaged up as universal recipes for anyone to use to universally program their days. Thank you.